Some cities, they totally reward you for running around and trying to see absolutely everything. You wake up early, you cram the itinerary, and you just conquer the map.
Right, the classic checklist approach to travel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But St. Louis it is definitely not one of those cities. In fact, St. Louis actually punishes the ambitious, but it heavily rewards the strategic.
Oh, heavily. It really does.
Welcome back to another episode of the Deep Dive Curious Learners. You know the drill by now, right?
Yep.
Like, subscribe, drop your suggestions for new destinations in the comments, and check out those affiliate travel links in the show notes.
Yeah, please do. It really helps us out.
It does. But let's just jump straight in, because our mission today
Mhm.
is breaking down this highly curated, totally locally informed travel handbook for, like, the perfect spring trip to St. Louis.
And the philosophy here is just fascinating. The handbook essentially says you need to build your entire trip around just 4 main anchors.
Right.
And, you let everything else orbit around those anchors rather than cluttering up your schedule.
Which means we need to talk about this concept of clustering, right? Because to execute a 4-anchor strategy, you first need the right launching pad.
Oh, absolutely. You can't conquer a city if you're starting in the wrong neighborhood.
Yeah, and the guide is incredibly firm that St. Louis does not reward like random crossing and recrossing of the city.
No, it really doesn't. If
No.
you bounce from the riverfront all the way over to Forest Park and then back downtown, you're just going to be exhausted.
Right. So it rewards clustering. You tackle one distinct zone at a time. It's kind of like a tapas menu rather than an all-you-can-eat buffet.
That's a great way to put it. You want to savor the small plates.
Exactly. But, okay, let's talk about the ideal base camp for this trip, because the handbook points to the seam between the Soulard and Benton Park neighborhoods.
Yeah, which is roughly between Gravois, Jefferson, Cherokee, or Potomac, and I-55.
Right. But I got to push back on this a little bit. If we want to see the big skyline stuff like the Arch, shouldn't we just stay right downtown?
Well, see, that's what a lot of people think, but staying in Soulard gives you access to this really authentic local texture.
How so?
Downtowns can get this sterile, empty feeling after the tourists go home, right? But Soulard has this perfect overlap of mid-19th century residential calm and this red brick bar district energy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you get the easy, relaxed evening use of places like Hammerstone's at 9th and Russell, which is a great blues bar with a patio, or the 1860s saloon.
Ah, so you're trading proximity to a monument for, actual neighborhood vitality.
Exactly. You aren't taking a cab to find nightlife, you're just stepping off your front porch.
That sounds amazing, actually. Okay, so once you're settled in that local neighborhood, it's time to tackle the first major cluster, which is the iconic skyline and the riverfront.
Right, the Gateway Arch and the old courthouse.
Yes, the Arch is the obvious heavyweight here.
Yeah.
But the logistics are, they're tricky, right?
Yeah, they really are. So the museum under the arch is free, which is great. But if you want to take that 45 to 60-minute tram ride to the top, you absolutely have to get tickets in advance.
You can't just casually stroll up and expect a seat in the pod.
No way, especially not in spring. And keep in mind, their spring hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay, good to know. But the guide really stresses that you shouldn't just snap an icon photo and leave, right?
Right. It heavily emphasizes pairing the arch with the old courthouse.
Which is just a short walk away.
Exactly. It's open 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and it has these beautifully restored courtrooms. They even do a ranger tour at 2:15 p.m.
Oh, that's cool. And that's where the Dred Scott decision happened, right?
Yes, exactly. So pairing it with the arch gives the trip this incredible historical depth.
Okay, so the Arch is a must, and the courthouse grounds it all. But what about the Mississippi River right next to it?
What do you mean?
Well, I want to experience the water, but how do we best experience it without turning the day into like a boring history seminar?
Ah, I see. Well, the expert handbook actually breaks down the riverboat options for this.
Okay, what are we looking at?
So there's a standard 1-hour daytime cruise, which is about 26 stalls.
Right.
But the true splurge, especially for a Saturday night, is the Skyline dinner cruise.
Oh, a dinner cruise.
Yeah, it's $64. It departs at 7:30 p.m., and it provides this incredibly romantic, timed, big memory kind of night.
That sounds like it perfectly caps off a downtown day.
It really does. You get the illuminated skyline reflecting off the water. It's beautiful.
Which actually brings us to the weekend itself, right? Because after locking in that big historical anchor, the itinerary really opens up.
It does. Saturday is built completely for flexibility.
Yeah, I love this part. The guide splits Saturday into 2 distinct lanes, depending on your mood and the weather.
Which is brilliant because, travel energy fluctuates.
Exactly. So let's look at lane 1. The guide calls this Wonder and Water.
Yeah, this is the really polished romantic track.
Right. It features the Missouri Botanical Gardens string exhibition, which is called Patterns in Nature, the Art of H.Y.B.Y. Kuzar.
And that's all about these intricate geometric light sculptures, right?
Yeah, they cast these mesmerizing shadow patterns everywhere. And then you follow that up with the Skyline Dinner Cruise we just talked about.
So it's a very sensory, soothing, low-friction kind of day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what if you want something totally different? Lane 2 is called Weirdness in Music.
Ah, yes. The high-energy option.
Very high energy. It's a highly active day at the City Museum. But wait, I gotta ask. Isn't a museum usually where you go to quietly stare at paintings?
Usually.
Because this sounds exhausting. It sounds more like an adult playground than a traditional gallery.
That is exactly what it is. The City Museum is absolutely not a chill museum day.
I knew it.
It's housed in a former shoe factory, and it's super heavy on climbing and weirdness. You're going through hidden caves and sliding down 10-story slides.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's open 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. on weekends. Tickets are $20 online, and there's a weather-dependent $8 rooftop add-on.
Okay, so that's why you have to choose your lane carefully. You're balancing your physical energy with, a desire for polished romance versus playful chaos.
Exactly. And if you choose the chaos of the City Museum, you're going to need some serious food afterward.
So for sure. And Guide points lane 2 directly toward Broadway Oyster Bar for late-night live music and Cajun Creole food.
Which perfectly weaves into St. Louis's hyper-specific signature dish culture.
Yes. Let's talk about the food.
Yeah.
You can't go to St. Louis without grabbing toasted ravioli on the hill, right?
You really can't. It's an absolute staple.
And then for dessert, you've got to get the gooey butter cake at Park Avenue Coffee.
Oh, man. Gooey butter cake is it's incredible.
So good. Okay, so whether you spend Saturday dining on the river or literally climbing through the City Museum, Sunday requires a shift in pace.
It really does.
Right.
And in St. Louis, pace is dictated by baseball.
I love that. The guide points to a Sunday 1:15 p.m. Cardinals game against the Dodgers at Busch Stadium.
Yeah, and it details the seating logic, too, which is super helpful.
Right, because you have options. You could do the lower bowl on the infield for that classic postcard view of the skyline.
Or you can go for the left field pavilion, which is known as Big Mac Land.
Right, named after Mark McGuire.
Exactly. It's great for value and atmosphere, and it even includes Coca-Cola Unlimited options.
Nice. But, the guide explains that a Sunday day game isn't just about sports.
No, not at all. It's about using events as a metronome.
A metronome.
Yeah, it provides a marquee event, but it leaves the evening wide open for what they call a post-game drift.
I like that analogy. It's kind of like dropping an anchor in a slow-moving river, right? It keeps you grounded while the afternoon just sort of flows by.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
But, okay, where do we drift to after the game if we aren't quite ready to head back to the Airbnb?
Well, the handbook offers 2 totally contrasting follow-ups.
Hit me.
First, you've got the 360 rooftop at the Hilton. It's 400 feet up, so you get those obvious sweeping skyline views.
Oh, that sounds amazing for, big city energy. What's the other option?
The Thaxton Speakeasy, it has a completely hidden underground vibe.
Wait, like a real speakeasy.
Yeah, but you have to check their weekly password and event status before you go.
That is so cool. Okay, so we've talked about where to go, what to eat, where to sit. But the fastest way to ruin a perfectly paced trip is messing up how you actually get around.
Oh, logistics. Yeah, especially if you're bringing your own wheels.
Right. So let's talk about navigating the Gateway Transportation Center. That's the multimodal terminal at 430 South 15th Street.
Yeah, the guide specifically looks at arriving via Amtrak with luggage and e-bikes.
Okay, so if we went through all the trouble of bringing e-bikes on the train, shouldn't we just ride them right from the station to the Airbnb?
To save money and instantly explore.
Yeah, exactly.
The Expert Handbook delivers a very firm local reality check here by simplicity.
Oh, really? Don't ride the bikes.
No, take a rideshare for arrival and departure.
But the distance is pretty short, isn't it?
It is short, but the friction of loaded bikes, unfamiliar streets, and, varying Midwestern weather on a first night, it's just too high.
Yeah, friction over mileage. That
That-
makes a lot of sense. You don't want to start your trip stressed out and lost in the dark.
Exactly. You save the e-bikes for when you're unburdened.
But speaking of e-bikes, I saw there's a 16.19-mile paved riverfront trail. That sounds incredible.
It is really scenic, but again, there's a catch.
There's always a catch. What is it?
It functions partly as a levee road, so
Yeah.
there's very limited shade and really sparse services.
So it's strictly a daytime outing.
Exactly. It is absolutely not a late-night transportation corridor.
Gotcha. So after having drinks at Planter's house or maybe a late dinner at Sydney Street Cafe, don't try to bike back on the levee in the pitch dark.
Please don't swallow your pride and call a car.
Huh? Noted. Well, I think that covers all the bases. Let's do a quick recap of the ultimate St. Louis blueprint.
Let's hear it.
All right, you want to choose a base where residential calm meets nightlife, so the Soulard area. You cluster your sightseeing. You pick your Saturday lane, choosing either wonder or weirdness.
Right.
Use a Sunday day game to pace your weekend, and you swallow your pride by using ride shares for your luggage transfers.
It's a bulletproof plan, honestly, and it brings up a really provocative final thought on travel philosophy.
Oh, what's that?
Well, we always worry about tourist traps, right?
Yeah, overpriced restaurants, crowded spots.
Right. But often, the biggest tourist trap risk isn't a specific location, it's the mindset of trying to force every single headline attraction into one day.
Oh, wow. That is so true. The FOMO just takes over.
Exactly. But the deepest travel memories don't live in a packed schedule. They actually live in the breathing room you leave between the anchors.
The breathing room between the anchors. I
Mhm.
absolutely love that. It's something for all of you curious learners to mull over on your next trip.
Leave some blank space in the itinerary.
Yes. Well, that is all for today's deep dive. Stay tuned, because next time we're tackling a completely different travel adventure, and you won't want to miss it.
It's going to be a good one.
Until then, keep exploring.